Good evening and welcome to our first episode of Sports Hour of the semester. I am Kevin Syracuse, joined by our NBA analyst Anthony Flores. And to start things off, we're going to give a quick roundup of Fredonia College sports. So the Fredonia Blue Devils men's hockey team season came to an end Saturday night as they lost to Geneseo in the SUNYAC semifinals 5-2. Max Blitz and Jimmy Morgan scored for Fredonia while Eric Bogart made 33 saves in defeat. The Blue Devils finished with a record of 15-8-4 and will return 3 of their top 4 scorers next season. The Fredonia women's basketball team also lost in the SUNYAC semifinals this weekend as they fell to the Geneseo Knights Friday in New Paltz 62-30. The Blue Devils finished the season with a record of 12-15 and will return 3 of their top 5 scorers next season. And finally, the Fredonia men's swimming and diving team finished in 6th place on the final day of the SUNYAC Swimming and Diving Championships on Saturday, while the women's swimming and diving team finished in 7th place. Kristen Krasnick won the 3-meter board, while Michaela Paloe was 3rd in the 1,650-yard freestyle on the final day of the event at the Burt Flickinger Center at ECC in Buffalo. WNYF TV would like to congratulate all these teams on tremendous seasons. So Anthony, starting with the NBA, what are your thoughts as we are about 3/4 of the way through the season?
Well, looking at the standings right now in the East, we have the Milwaukee Bucks, still number 1, still the best team in the East, for good reason, of course. Mirotic added through the trade deadline, adds a 3-point shooter and an overall good scorer in general for that Bucks team, which also spreads the floor for Giannis to get back out there and play an MVP performance as he did earlier in the season. And then Toronto follows second, getting Marc Gasol great already for a good defensive team, and Siakam playing phenomenal. Fred VanVleet playing great as well. That Toronto Raptors team is looking nice. The Pacers quietly in 3rd place as they have throughout the whole season. A very underrated team, a very great team overall. And Philadelphia coming in at 4th. They rose up to 4th from being 5th for so long throughout the season. Getting Tobias Harris adds great depth and a great player overall, possible all-star, if you could say, to that great Philadelphia team already with a big 4. And then coming up with Boston, number 5. Boston has picked up after a slow start earlier in the season. And then you have Brooklyn Nets, the surprise team of this season, playing phenomenal. D'Angelo Russell, Danger Russell playing great, leading that Nets team to the 6th seed right now, 32-30. The Detroit Pistons at 7th with 29-30 right now. Blake Griffin's having a phenomenal season, but overall Detroit is a playoff team in a very weak East still. But then you have the Charlotte Hornets at number 8 finishing off for the playoff hunt right now. And, Charlotte's barely holding on with Orlando, not even really a game, actually 1 game behind because they play 1 less game. But for the West, we also have the Golden State Warriors, of course, at number 1, which I believe they will stay at number 1 because of DeMarcus Cousins coming back from his injury and playing great already after, being injured. Denver Nuggets still very loudly in the 2nd place of the Western standings, playing phenomenal throughout the season. But creeping up behind them is the Oklahoma City Thunder, who Paul George and Russell Westbrook playing phenomenal together. I'd say that's the best duo in the NBA right now, and they're playing great, leading that Oklahoma City Thunder team 3rd, which I believe they might finish 2nd. Portland Trailblazers playing great. Of course, Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, that team overall playing phenomenal as they always do. But, let's see if they can continue their good play through the regular season, finish that strong, and make it to the playoffs and, not get knocked down in the first round. And then you have the Houston Rockets coming after a slow start earlier in the season with injuries and suspensions and whatnot like that, but making some little minor trades and adjustments throughout the season. The Rockets, of course, with James Harden, wonderful 32-game, 40-plus point at least a game streak ending, but he had a historic scoring streak throughout this season, which will be remembered in the NBA history books. Utah Jazz creep up from 6th after having a very, very slow start earlier this season, and I'm happy to see Utah be number 6. They deserve it. LA Clippers, at one point, they were 1st in the season, but now they're 7th. Typical Clippers, but they did make trades and whatnot and traded a lot of their great players to add depth for their future, which is, surprising in a very tough West still. And then San Antonio holding on barely, only 2 games ahead of the Sacramento Kings, who were 9th, but San Antonio Spurs playing their hearts out with a very mediocre team for this season at 8th. And we have tons of good games throughout this season, tons of great games. We have tonight the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Denver Nuggets, 2nd and 3rd seeds. It's going to be a phenomenal game. I believe OKC is going to take this win regardless of Denver having a better overall team, in my opinion. Westbrook and PG are just too good, and PG is already playing like an MVP. He is, in my opinion, the MVP of this season, so I believe they're going to win that game. And then for further games, we also have, let's see, tons of other games as well. I believe the Trailblazers and Celtics. I think the Celtics are going to take this. I honestly think that. I know Dame Lillard's a phenomenal player. CJ McCollum's a dominant player as well. But I believe Kyrie and that young Boston Celtics team are, they're playing much better than they did earlier in the season. They're going to pick it up, and they're going to continue with a win against the Trailblazers later this week. And then, Sixers and Thunder. Going to be a great game. But I obviously have favored for the Thunder because, as I said, PG is the MVP, in my opinion, of the season. Westbrook is averaging another triple-double as well for the third straight year in a row. It's going to be an easy win for them. Well, not an easy game, but a hard-fought win for those guys. And then, the Raptors and Trailblazers, as a big Kawhi fan, I believe the Raptors are going to win, not only because of Kawhi, me being a fan, but also because that team overall is just phenomenal. Great players that hustle, play hard, and they score well. It's not just Kawhi and Kyle Lowry. It's the whole team overall, especially with Marc Gasol and Pascal Siakam. And then the Warriors and the 76ers. Great game, but the Warriors are going to win, of course. It's the Warriors, especially, like I said, with DeMarcus Cousins back, there's no stopping the Warriors. I believe they're already paved their way to the Western Conference Finals and the NBA Championship for another year. And then the Rockets and Celtics. The Rockets and Celtics is going to be a phenomenal game to watch, but I believe that the Rockets will come back, will win this game. I feel like it's going to be very close. I feel like the Rockets might end up having a comeback type of game. Chris Paul coming back recently, he's playing good, but, I feel that they, after a very close win against their opponent this week, I see the Celtics nearly coming with the win, but the Rockets coming back with Chris Paul playing healthy, being a great leader and great player overall, and then James Harden, obviously James Harden, so they're going to lead a win. So,
all right, so there was a ton of information unpacked there. Let's go back to the standings. And something that I'm just really intrigued by is the Lakers are in 11th place right now.
The Lakers,
and 3 games out of the playoffs, and for all the hype with LeBron leaving Cleveland a second time going to LA, he might not even get in the playoffs. And he's chasing a title in LA.
He is not chasing a title. In his defense, he has nothing left he has to accomplish. He went to LA. He wants to win, of course. He doesn't want to not be in the playoffs. Nobody wants to not be in the playoffs. Nobody does not want to be in a championship game. But LeBron was injured for a month this season, and a month in the NBA is a long time. And, he's getting older as well, so his health is something of question. LeBron is a great player overall, but his body is what leads him to be a dominant player because he's just a physical freak. So therefore, as he gets older, that's something he has to look for. But also Lonzo Ball being injured. Lonzo Ball adds great leadership, great awareness, great passing, great defense for the whole Lakers team. As Lonzo has been injured, the Lakers have lost by more than at least 16.9 points per game, and they're not scoring as much and they're not playing as much defense. And Lonzo is one of the very few players that only plays defense on this Lakers team, which is something the Lakers really need to step up on is play defense. LeBron can't do everything, and LeBron has been slacking off a little, but he's done it before in Cleveland where he played all the defense, he played all the offense, he's done everything he can. And, he gassed himself out by the time the finals came last season. So I see why LeBron doesn't want to give he should give everything. He's going to give everything. But LeBron can't overexert himself, especially in a crucial point. He could take an L here and there, but being only 3 games back, he can afford to do that. And I believe if Lonzo comes back healthy and that Lakers team really has a culture change and gets rid of any distractions from the trade deadline and gets rid of, the chemistry issues and also handles the addresses that need to be done with coaching overall in defense and offense, the Lakers, I think, will make the playoffs. I don't want to see the Spurs knocked out because I am a Spurs fan. I like DeMar, but I can see the Spurs, possibly losing that spot to the Lakers or the Kings. Kings are a very quiet team, but, we all want to see LeBron in the playoffs. LeBron wants to be. So I honestly think he'll make a push for 8th or 7th, but it's going to be very hard for him if he does make the playoffs, because if he does make 8th or 7th, he will have to play the Warriors if he is 8th, and if he is 7th, I would say he has to play OKC, but he might have to play Denver as well. And those are 2 very dominant teams in the West, 2 great teams, 2 championship caliber teams. So, like I said, if he makes the playoffs, it's going to be a very struggle from the start.
And then, with the trade deadline a couple weeks ago, and speaking of the Lakers, there were so many rumors with Anthony Davis going there.
I understand. I listen. They don't need him. They didn't need him now. It would be nice to get him now. And the Lakers GM, I think it was GM or someone in their staff, had said that he purposely did this to cause dysfunction with the Lakers. And that itself is a very good tactic, but a very dirty tactic. Whoever that staff member was who did that, like, that just makes him look bad. Now, like, no one is going to want to work with him, make trades, or possibly, you know, make connections with him because knowing what he did to the Lakers. That's very unprofessional, very disrespectful, and also just uncalled for. And, you know, the Lakers really being so desperate to give up their entire young core, multiple draft picks, and even some veterans is ridiculous.
6 players. There was a potential trade with 6 players and like 2
ridiculous.
draft picks.
It was absolutely ridiculous that they offered that in the first place, and absolutely ridiculous that the Pelicans did not even take that. Because, yeah, they might be getting the Lakers scraps, but who knows? They might play in a new atmosphere. You surround them with better talent, and you have more cap space while trading Anthony Davis. You have a bright future. Especially if even if that Pelicans team played badly after the trade, they would have had a very high draft pick and got someone in the draft that would have been great for their future as well.
But it's also worth noting, I believe the Pelicans only had 2 roster spots open, so they would have had 4 extra guys, and all the guys that the Lakers were offering were good, so they would have
they would have cut
get rid of 4
players.
Guys on their team to make room for these new guys.
Listen, I would have said that would have been the right call because, you know, the Pelicans are okay team. Really, the only people you should really keep on the Pelicans is Drew Holiday, Julius Randle, because those are the best players on the Pelicans. If you can surround them with that young talent of the Lakers, if they did that with the trade, that team would have been phenomenal in the future with some time.
Well, as a Knicks fan, I would love to see Anthony Davis in New York, and I would love to see Zion too as the Knicks.
Most likely that
12 and 48. It's been a very sad season. But then there's all the rumors. Kevin Durant might be coming to New York, Kyrie. So
possibly.
Who knows?
You do have 2 spots for 2 max contracts, so that is a good possibility.
Yeah, so I'm hoping the Knicks can pull through here. But all right, that'll do it for our NBA segment, and we'll be back in a few minutes to talk some NHL.
I'll be right back. Hi. You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that? Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
It's me, Artie. Come see what I collected from the Creative Galaxy in my idea box.
Transform your world.
Will you help me make art?
Before you throw it away,
Hey, I have an idea.
think outside the box.
Go be amazing!
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
And welcome back, and we are joined now with Crescenzo Fano to talk some hockey. And,
Actually, you're the one who's going to be talking about hockey.
Yeah, all right, so let's just start right in with the standings. So in the Eastern Conference, we have the Islanders, the Capitals, and the Blue Jackets for the top 3 teams in the Metropolitan Division. In the Atlantic, we have Tampa Bay, Boston, and Toronto. Tampa Bay has 100 points. Yes, 100. 48, 11, and 4. They are just having a phenomenal season. And then the 2 wildcard teams are Montreal and Carolina. And Carolina has 72 points, and they are tied with Pittsburgh right now, who has 72. And the Sabres are trailing by 6 points. They have 66, and Philadelphia 65. And last I checked, Philly was up 3-1 over the Sabres tonight.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
We can't allow that to happen. But speaking of New York teams.
Okay, 4-2 now.
4-2, great. But speaking of teams, I know that the Islanders have really done wonderful this season. I think because of the head coaching change, I feel like that's the reason why, because John Tavares went to Toronto and everyone thought that there was a major collapse. And what is your insight, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, they're having a great year. Like you said, they lost John Tavares. He went to Toronto, and they're having a really good year. And the thing I'm most impressed with is Robin Lehner is their goalie this year. And if you guys remember him from the Sabres, he was pretty bad. And well, I will say he went through a lot of like mental stuff and like illnesses, and I think he was like some depression and that kind of stuff. But I mean, what a turnaround this guy's had. He's been one of the top goalies statistically in the NHL. So, you know, they're having a really good year.
And what about the
pull
Sabres?
Up some of their stats.
I mean, the Islanders have been really good this season, and along with the Sabres, they kind of started out hot, and they pretty much have fizzled out a little bit.
Yeah, just real quick. So Robin Lehner, he is 19-9, 9-5 with a 2.07 goals against average and a .931 save percentage.
That's pretty good.
Thomas Greiss is 17-9-2, 2.26 goals allowed per game and a .928 save percentage. So between those two guys, I mean, that explains why they're the top team in the Metropolitan Division. But yeah, the Sabres started out exceptionally well on our last couple shows. I believe that was during or maybe just after their 10-game win streak. They were playing great. They're clicking on all cylinders. And then over winter break, they just got into a huge funk and fell massively in the standings. And now, like I said, they're hanging on to they're in the hunt.
Yeah.
They're 6 points behind, but they're not looking too good. They did have a big win Saturday against
They're
Washington.
not the Rangers. I mean, honestly, they're much better than the Rangers this season. I mean, the Rangers have really, I guess, are going through a relapse, and they're going to go through a rebuilding stage. I mean, they made off some big trades that a lot of people are upset about. And talk a little bit about the trade deadline result. I mean, who got traded? What were the big names? I know it is over now, so what was the biggest name that really got traded?
Yeah, just real quick, one more thing about the Sabres. I mean, this kind of leads into the trade deadline. The Sabres' defense has been just atrocious, especially after this 10-game win streak. I mean, they're letting guys come. They're skating in uncontested, and they're just getting wide open shots, and sloppy puck possession, turnovers, and from a fan's perspective, it just looks like they don't have enough heart or hustle right now, and it looks like they do at times, and at other times they don't. And it is just really sad to see after such a great start to the season. A lot of people want Phil Housley gone, but I think they've made a lot of improvements from last year, and I think it's too early to cut the ties with him. And you got to give him at least one more year. But I mean, if next year, if it's the same thing where they don't come out with 110% effort, I mean, yeah, they're NHL players and they should get themselves ready. But at the same time, as a coach, you got to make sure your team is not too high or not too low. You got to, keep them level every game.
And that's exactly what the Islanders have done. I mean, getting, the guy who won the Stanley Cup, I mean, that's obviously just a huge improvement over the season. So I feel like that's just a big improvement overall.
Yeah, and then, some of these Sabres losses, they lost the other day to the Rangers, 6-2 at home. They lost to the Blackhawks at home, 7-3. They can't beat Carolina or Florida for whatever reason. They've lost multiple games to them. They lost to Edmonton, 7-2. I mean, there's just...
And they didn't make a trade for anyone?
Well, I say that kind of leads into the trade deadline. So yesterday, or actually Sunday, they did make a trade. They acquired Brandon Montour from the Anaheim Ducks. He's a 24-year-old defenseman, shoots right-handed. He's from Ontario, so he's somewhat familiar with the area. And they said he's really good at moving the puck, and he's good at defense, but he's good at, getting the puck up to the forwards and starting that transition. And that's definitely something the Sabres need help with, because there are just way too many times where they're just, playing, they're keeping the puck in their own zone. They just can't seem to get it out and advance it to the opposing team's zone. So I think that will really help. And then the Sabres also traded Nathan Beaulieu. I can never say that, but they traded him to Winnipeg for a 2019 sixth-round pick because there were too many spots after acquiring Montour. So I like the Sabres' moves. Obviously, there's still a lot of work to do with this team, but I think dropping Beaulieu and adding Montour is definitely a step in the right direction. And then just for a couple of the other big trades, as yesterday was a trade deadline, the Blues acquired Michael Del Zotto from the Ducks for a sixth-round pick. The Predators got Wayne Simmons from the Flyers for Ryan Hartman and a 2020 fourth-round pick. Vegas they acquired Mark Stone and Tobias Lindbergh from the Senators, and then they signed Stone to an 8-year, $76 million extension right away.
And that's so weird because to me, the Golden Knights were about to win the Cup.
Yeah.
They were right there, and then now there's just all this change. I mean, I feel like they're not the same as they were a year ago. I feel like they're a completely different team than they were a year ago. So it's kind of weird how that kind of works in hockey, where like one team is just so dominant, and then the next year they don't do anything. So that's why, to me, like when Pittsburgh was able to repeat, that's like so hard to do in hockey, where they just kept it going and going. And you can't see that with the Golden Knights this year.
Yeah, and I think this is a good time to switch over to the Western Conference standings. We'll get to the other trades in a minute, but Nashville is leading the Central Division with 79 points, followed by Winnipeg with 78, and the Blues with 72. Calgary is leading the Pacific with 85 points, followed by San Jose and Vegas. And then in the wild card, we have Dallas and Minnesota with 67 and 66 points. And then Colorado and Arizona. Actually, it's pretty tight in the West. Colorado is tied with Minnesota with 66 points, followed by Arizona with 63. The Canucks have 62, and the Blackhawks have 61. And Patrick Kane is just having another phenomenal season.
Even though Chicago isn't. I mean,
yeah,
it's weird with them. They had such a dynasty, you know, 4 or 5 years ago at this point. It makes me feel old, but the point is that Patrick Kane is one of the guys that really isn't being talked about, I feel like, this season when he should be.
Yeah, because the team's not as good.
Yeah, I feel like Ovechkin is kind of stealing all that. And speaking of that, who do you have really working into, I guess, who's your MVP, I would say, of the season? Would it be Ovechkin?
I mean, Ovechkin's having another great year. I mean, so many guys do so many different good things for their teams. I mean, look at Jeff Skinner. He's got 37 goals, and he's just having a phenomenal season. And then Ovechkin, last I saw, I believe he's at 44. I'm just going to pull up the stats because I won't do them justice without getting all of their correct amount of points. But, I mean, there's, like, Nikita Kucherov, 101 points. And, okay, Ovechkin still has 44. So it goes Ovechkin with 44, Patrick Kane with 39, and then he has 54 points for 54 assists. Jeez. So 93 points. Leon Draisaitl, 38 for 76. Braden Point, 36, 43, 79 points. And then Skinner, I misspoke, he has 36 goals, 20 assists for 56 points. John Tavares, 35, 31 for 66, so he's having a good year for Toronto. I mean, there's so many guys doing good things. I mean, and then, like I said, Nikita Kucherov has just been unbelievable this year, which explains why Tampa is just pretty much unbeatable, 48, 11, and 4. It's just incredible. Kucherov, 30 goals, 71 assists, 101 points. I mean, he's just unstoppable.
Can't even write that in a video game. You can't even write that.
Yeah, Connor McDavid's having another good year. Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen for Colorado, Braden Point, the youngster with Tampa, Johnny Gaudreau.
And Tampa consistently is always in.
Yeah.
Always in.
Yeah, and then a couple other trades that we had. Speaking of Colorado, they acquired Derek Brassard and a 6th-round pick for a 3rd-round pick. And the Winnipeg Jets got Kevin Hayes from the Rangers for Brendan Lemieux, a 1st-round pick and a 4th-round pick. The Blue Jackets got Keith Kincaid from the Devils for a 5th-round pick. And they also acquired Matt Duchene from the Senators. So the Senators, and they also got Ryan Dzingel from the Senators. So the Senators were in full sellout mode here as they're just pretty much tanking. But, I mean, the Blue Jackets had a really good deadline, getting Dzingel and Duchene and even Kincaid. I mean, they're definitely going for it all. They're fighting with Pittsburgh and even, you know, teams like Buffalo and Philadelphia and Carolina and Montreal for that final playoff spot. So a lot of teams, there are a ton of trades this year at the deadline. A lot of teams made some nice improvements to their team. So we'll see how it all plays out here with just about 20 games left in the season. So with that, we will be back in a couple minutes, and Krishanza is going to talk some MMA.
I'll be right back. Hi. You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that? Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
It's me, Artie. Come see what I collected from the creative galaxy in my idea box.
Transform your world.
Will you help me make art?
Before you throw it away,
Hey, I have an idea.
think outside the box.
Go be amazing!
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
MMA now, and Krishanza, what do you think about this weekend's fights?
They were more than
Still
anticipated. I'm more pumped up for next weekend, but we're going to save that for a little bit. But Thiago Santos won against Jan Blachowicz, excuse me. A lot of weird names are going to come up this upcoming card and next card. So if I mispronounce him, I am so sorry. But Jan was the number 4 ranked light heavyweight fighter in the world in the UFC. Thiago Santos was number 6. Thiago Santos is very interesting, and I'm going to explain this a little bit later as well, but he's on a 3-fight winning streak, and when he was going into this fight, he actually came up from middleweight. This is his 3rd fight at light heavyweight, and he's looked sensational. Just like, I'm going to mention it already, but for next week's main event, it's going to be Anthony Smith. He's also done the same, and they all fought. And so what makes this interesting, if now that he won, if Anthony Smith wins, you know, he's going to face John Jones. I'm going to explain that a little bit later and how I think he can win. But if he wins, I feel like this is just a perfect fight. You know, a second fight at light heavyweight. They both have been so different. He won by knockout again. He's been sensational at light heavyweight, and it's been incredible to really watch. I couldn't believe the translation or kind of the transformation that he has done since moving up to light heavyweight. I mean, it's been sensational, like I said. And another guy to really watch out for, because this card wasn't really, the main card. This was a Fight Night card. This was over, not in the U.S. This was, I believe, in Prague, which is really not a lot of people from there. But, I feel that Peter Yan is the next guy to really watch out for in the 135-pound division. I feel like Peter Yan can really make strides and really force a lot of people to be really scared of him in this bantamweight division. He beat a guy named John Dotson, and John Dotson's no joke. John Dotson defended or knocked down T.J. Dillashaw, who is the current bantamweight champion, and just fought Henry Cejudo, who had lost, and so there's a lot of controversy around that. John Dotson is also the one that knocked down Demetrius Johnson, who defended his belt 12 times in the UFC. I mean, that's just astounding, remarkable. But John Dotson has lost his step a little bit. Remember watching the fight, and, John Dotson was always known for his speed. And I feel like his speed has gone away from him a little bit. I feel like not only that, but when you watched it, it's almost like he was losing focus. A couple of times he yelled at the ref, oh, he's grabbing my hair. Oh, he poked me in the eyes. Oh, he punched me in an inappropriate area that I will not mention on air. But the matter of the fact is, I think he's lost focus, and I think his time in the UFC is done. He's been very inconsistent, win-loss, win-loss. I think it's back-to-back losses now for John Dotson. And the matter of the fact is, I think Peter Yan is someone to watch for. He has very good boxing awareness. He really likes to keep the right hand up while he keeps the left hand kind of low. I don't know how that's going to do further in the fights, but if he's going to face someone like, let's just say, Dominic Cruz, T.J. Dillashaw, Cody Garbrandt, he's got to watch out for those body shots because he keeps that right hand really high. And yes, that's going to defend your head, but the body is going to be wide open for kicks. It's going to be wide open for punches. He is really known for his boxing, but the style of his boxing, I think, needs to lessen, and I think he needs to transition more into his, I would say, overall game and his overall, I would say, his punching ability and his punching, where his hand placement is. That's what I believe Peter Yan has accomplished from this big win, and Thiago Santos, what he has accomplished, I mean, just that he's one of the scariest guys in the light heavyweight division. I mean, 3 knockouts, just incredible. I really am impressed with that.
So what are your predictions for the upcoming fights? We have Mickey Gall versus Diego Sanchez.
Diego Sanchez.
Or Diego.
Don't worry. There are some names on here that are going to be really weird.
I was thinking of Thiago. So
yeah,
I mixed it
very close.
Diego.
Very close.
Diego Sanchez.
Anyway, with Mickey Gall, submission fighter. His 5 wins come from submission, and Diego Sanchez, an old veteran, wants to keep the fight standing. Gall, if you want it, you got to submit him on the ground. That's just as plain and simple as I can get. The winner of this, I think, is going to be Diego Sanchez, to be honest. I don't think Mickey Gall has to stand up that he has, and I think that Diego is just a more veteran fighter, and after his last win against Craig White, he's looked phenomenal.
All right, and Jeremy Stephens versus Zabit.
All right, so the reason why I put Zabit is because his last name is Magosharapov. Talk about a last name. Anyway,
okay.
The reason why I put this fight, this is a huge fight, by the way. Jeremy Stephens, a hard puncher, probably the hardest punching guy in the 145-pound division. Zabit, more known for his range. He has a 73-inch reach, really is long, lengthy. If Zabit is going to win, he's going to have to win with his kicks and his reach ability. He's going to have to be able to keep Jeremy Stephens out of range. If Jeremy wants to win, he's going to have to use those body punches. I think Jeremy Stephens is going to win after the loss from Aldo. I think he has a new lease on life, and I think he'll be able to rebound.
All right. Cody Garbrandt versus Pedro Munoz.
Pedro Munoz, I feel like, is going to win this one. I feel like from Cody Garbrandt facing T.J. Dillashaw twice, I don't think he's the same fighter. And I also think that Pedro's on the up and up. He's lost to Rafael Assunção by unanimous decision. He lost to Jimmy Rivera by split decision. He lost to John Dotson by split decision. Really tough guys. I think Pedro will get the upset here.
Robbie Lawler versus Ben Askren.
Ben Askren, first time fighting in the UFC, and he's going to be able to wrestle with Robbie Lawler. If he's able to wrestle with him, I feel like Robbie Lawler is going to have major trouble. But if he comes in reckless, this is a long-awaited debut for Ben Askren. I feel like Ben Askren's going to win. Striker versus grappler, you got to go with the grappler.
All right, two more. Tyron Woodley versus Kamaru Usman, and John Jones versus Anthony Smith.
Woodley versus Usman. Depends on Usman. If he comes in aggressive, I feel like Woodley is going to be able to catch him with the right hand. But if Woodley or if Usman is not aggressive, it's going to be really troubling for Woodley. I'm going to give it to Woodley just on experience and the size. And as far as John Jones and Anthony Smith, this is pretty much just, if John Jones comes prepared, he's going to win this fight. It's not even if, ands, or buts. I'm sorry about that. Anthony Smith, though, if he can make it a dogfight and make it aggressive and make it really hard for John Jones to be like, oh, I did not prepare for this. And I feel like Anthony Smith's mindset is also what's leading him. I feel like Anthony Smith can make I'm going to say it right now, the biggest sports upset in history. He's a 6-1 underdog. At first, he was a 7-1 underdog. And Anthony Smith has the mindset to really make an upset. It would be this guy.
All right, well, there you have it, folks, with all of Crescenzo's takes from the MMA world. And we will be back in 4 minutes to talk about the crazy, or lack thereof, offseason in the MLB.
I'll be right back. Hi. You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that? Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
I realized that I'm not perfect, but it all really started to change because you judge me for having a problem. No one is going to know that I need help. I need help. I know that no one is going to judge me for having a problem. I realize that I'm not perfect, but it all really started to change because you listen.
Oh, look, a redhead. Staring contest. You still got it. I know.
Come alive with the forest.
The dad was cute.
You were looking right at us.
Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
It's me, Artie. Come see what I collected from the creative galaxy in my idea box.
Transform your world.
Will you help me make art?
Before you throw it away,
Hey, I have an idea.
think outside the box.
Go be amazing!
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
All right. Welcome.
Thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right, welcome back. So, talking some MLB now. Crescenzo, what are your thoughts on this offseason?
Horrible. Let me tell you actually my real thoughts on it. I think the agents are controlling too much of it. The fact that Manny Machado just signed,
Finally.
a week or two ago for $300 million to the Padres. One, by the way, Manny Machado, you are all about the money. Go to the Padres, yeah, farm system, okay. Could have went to the Phillies too, that are ready to play now. But I'm just saying. Also, that Scott Boras, the head real free agent king of all the baseball players, was controlling everyone and was able to manipulate and be like, hey, I want this number. No, my guy's going to hold out. And this goes with the player as well. This goes with Bryce Harper, but that's why Manny Machado didn't sign for a long time, because him and his agent were trying to get the top dollar and try to get the most money. But I'm like, who cares? Why does it care? You're still getting $300 million. You're still getting your 10% of it, which is $30 million, whatever it is. I don't even know the percentage, but let's just say it's 10%. You'll still get $30 million. What is the point of holding out until middle of February? Don't get the point.
Yeah, I'm happy Machado signed. I honestly really like the deal other than the money part of it.
I hate the deal.
I mean, $300 million, that's just absurd. You know, you pay one guy $300 million. He's making hundreds of thousands for just one game. I mean, that is just too much. But the fact of the matter is some team was going to pay him that. So I'm happy it was the Padres, because San Diego really had nothing. They have Eric Hosmer and Will Myers. But, I mean, they needed a stud to come to San Diego, you know, someone to put a face to their franchise. They've been that classic 75, 80 win team for I don't know how many years. And I think Machado and their #1 ranked farm system, in a couple of years, they are going to be really good.
Yeah, and then he'll opt out again because he has a 5th-year option in that. So that's just a horrible deal. Why would you sign that? Why would you give him that option? Because it's going to take at least 3 to 4 years to develop. So you're telling me that 1 year he needs to make the playoffs and he needs to do something? No, he'll just say, no, I'll go get more money. That's just a horrible deal. I hated that deal. Not a smart idea.
I don't really agree with the opt-out.
I would have made the opt-out 3 years. And if he didn't like it, do it.
You mean
Nolan Arenado.
with 3 years left?
No, in 3rd year in. Nolan Arenado just signed $60 million extension from the Colorado Rockies. And he was able to get it in the 3rd year. So let's just say, oh, you know what? I don't like it here. I can opt out and go somewhere else. At least do that. But to do it in 5? Oh. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
I mean, the Padres needed a shortstop desperately. I mean, they literally had no one to play shortstop, so he fills an immediate hole in their lineup. Like I said, he's a face of the franchise. He draws publicity to San Diego now, so it's good for him. It's a win-win for both sides, San Diego and for Manny.
Yes.
And San Diego, they're kind of struggling. They don't even have a football team anymore, as they're in LA. So
yeah,
San Diego really needed something to lift their spirits.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But like I said, I mean, $300 million is just absurd.
And because of all that, it held up a lot of the free agents. I mean, I got so many.
I mean, Bryce Harper's still unsigned.
Bryce Harper.
We're still waiting on him.
He's one of a kind, because I don't think that. All right, so basically, the Phillies have put everything on the table, and he still doesn't want to sign there. What?
Pretty much.
Like, he is looking for reasons not to sign there.
He said he's not sure.
Yeah, okay.
Like,
he's so sure.
There's a
he's
rumor.
sure he doesn't want to sign there. That's basically what he's saying.
There's a rumor that they offered him 8 to 10 years for around $330 million.
Yes, and with that team that was right there last year,
yeah, they're
up
good.
Until August,
they can win next year.
Up until probably late August, they were in it.
And now they got McCutcheon. They
overpaid for McCutcheon, but that's still a good leadership role.
They got him. They got JT Realmuto.
That's a huge
They got Gene
pickup.
Segura.
That should be like the reason to go there. Is like, all right, this team really wants to win now. The fact that they don't, I don't understand it.
And then there's so many free agents still available.
Dallas Keuchel is still available. How is that possible?
Yeah. Craig Kimbrell.
Craig Kimbrell is still available.
Adam Jones, Carlos Gonzalez.
So many. I mean, it's
Evan
ridiculous.
Gaddis.
It's ridiculous.
Gio Gonzalez.
Yeah, probably the worst free agency I've ever seen, especially how many people were hyping this up and everything. This could not have been any worse if you're a Major League Baseball.
I'm just going to run through the list real quick because there's so many gaps in here. Doug Fister's still out there. Logan Forsythe.
I think he retired, Doug Fister.
Okay, yeah, he did.
But
Logan Forsythe, Giovanni Gallardo. Let's see.
Logan Forsythe,
like I said, Adam Jones.
To a minor league deal. Logan Forsythe, you are right. He just signed, though, minor league deal to the Texas Rangers. But speaking of that, who else do you really like what they did this offseason, since we're going to talk about it?
I really like what the Cincinnati Reds did.
Yeah, even
right away.
Sonny Gray?
Yeah.
Horrible.
I think
for them, though, he'll be good.
Yeah, he was excellent in Oakland.
Yeah.
And I just think he couldn't handle the big lights in New York.
I agree.
And I think he can really resurrect his career out there. They also acquired Yasiel Puig, Matt Kemp, and Alex Wood.
Yep.
3 immediate holes are filled in their lineup.
Yeah.
Puig is just like Machado. He puts the face to their franchise, draws the public out to go see the games.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I'm really happy with they got Jose Iglesias the other day to compete at shortstop.
Signing. Underrated.
Yeah. And I'm really impressed by the Reds offseason. And
I'm impressed with the Yankees. I mean, getting James Paxton.
Yeah.
They kept it smart. They didn't get Manny Machado. They got DJ LeMahieu. I mean, that's the most underrated signing throughout probably baseball.
Great.
How they somehow pulled him off. I mean, he wasn't supposed to be a Yankee, but somehow he is. That's a huge hole to fill.
Oh, and real quick, the Reds also got Tanner Roark. I knew I was forgetting someone.
That's also true. But signed Aaron Hicks to a 7-year extension. I mean, he's been great when he's on the field. Jacoby Ellsbury is the one key that I really wish he was gone. He is stealing our money and whatever, but other than that, I think
Adam Ottavino.
Yeah, I mean, he's
really strengthened our bullpen and re-signed Zach Britton.
Right, it's a great job by the Yankees this offseason.
So with that, I mean, spring training games are already going on right now, so a lot of these free agents are going to be walking into the clubhouse pretty late in the season and going to have to meet their teammates pretty quickly. So we'll see what happens here as we are just about going into March, and hopefully we'll have some of these top free agents off the board next week for our show. But we'll be back. Aaron will be on to talk NFL in just a couple minutes.
I'll be right back. Hi. You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that? Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to to make my breakfast. Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
It's me, Artie. Come see what I collected from the creative galaxy in my idea box.
Transform your world.
Will you help me make art?
Before you throw it away,
Hey, I have an idea.
think outside the box.
Go be amazing!
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
And we are now joined by Aaron Sember to talk some NFL. And Aaron, what are your thoughts about this Super Bowl, especially being a Chiefs fan?
Well, all I know is that once the Patriots won that coin toss in the AFC Championship game, I knew it was all downhill.
Yep.
I don't blame any of that loss on D Ford because obviously a lot of the, you know how it is with the penalties with the Patriots. They always go their way.
Yep.
But
it's just so unfortunate. I mean, the Chiefs were that close, one play away. They actually picked off Brady. They had it secured in the bag. And, of course, D Ford lined up offsides. But like you said, there are so many other things we can't blame D Ford.
Yeah, but also, like, all those 3rd and 10s they kept converting. It's so easy. You just got to man up.
Yeah.
And we also...
I don't know why teams don't... I don't know why they don't strictly play man against Patriots. Brady will eat you up if you play zone. You can't play zone against Patriots.
Yeah. But that Super Bowl game was horrendous. Horrible.
Yeah. Before we get to that, let me just give a quick recap as we last aired in December. So just a quick recap of the playoffs. Once again, the Colts beat the Texans. The Chargers beat the Ravens. The Cowboys beat the Seahawks, and the Eagles beat the Bears on the double doink.
That was a double doink, oh man.
And then in the divisional round, that was the wild card round. The next weekend, Chiefs beat the Colts, Patriots beat the Chargers, Saints beat the Eagles, and the Rams beat the Cowboys. And then in the conference championships, unfortunately, the Patriots beat the Chiefs, and the Rams beat the Saints, and those are two controversial games because, I think
both decided by basically penalties and non-calls and all that.
My biggest takeaway from that Patriots game is that I think the NFL definitely needs to start doing both teams get the ball in overtime because you can't. You got to play defense.
They did not see the field in overtime.
I got to see Mahomes in overtime.
And it's just like
a back and forth game. You can't just end it. It's like when you have a movie or book and it's just like a cliffhanger. You got to finish it. And then with the NFC, one of the worst calls in NFL history with Nickel Roby-Coleman. Blatant pass interference. I wanted to see them either replay that game. I wanted to see them restart it the following Sunday from the spot of that play.
You saw how, I don't know. Yeah, you saw how Michael Thomas was like, trying to get Roger Goodell to
and he was like
looking up the rule book and let's do all this all over again.
Well, it actually says in the rule book, I don't know exactly what rule it is, but it says in the rule book that you can replay the game from the spot of the foul or restart it if it changes the outcome of the game. And that changed the outcome of the game. It changed the outcome of the season.
Can we just talk about that 58-yarder by Greg Zuerlein? At the end of the game. That would have been good. I'm not joking. That would have been the NFL record. I feel like that would have been good.
That was good from 70.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. But honestly, these playoffs, I was very surprised that the Texans only scored 7 points. They're a dominant offense, and their defense is pretty dominant too. But I guess it's just like the Colts had
a really good year. They started out 1-5. Last year they were terrible. First year head coach Frank Reich.
Mastermind.
Yeah.
He's intelligent.
10-6 they finished. And they have so much cap space this year. They're going to be so good. So with that, as a Bills fan, I don't want to talk about the Super Bowl anymore. It's just, once again, the Patriots won. Done and over with. But that takes us into the offseason now, and might as well start right in with Robert Kraft with his accusations.
Yeah, all the soliciting, the prostitutions and all that, which was big. That happened this weekend, and I really think that it's going to be a lot of turmoil these next few weeks and all that.
So he was charged on 2 counts of first-degree solicitation. So we don't need to talk anymore about that.
Yeah.
Some other rumors going on is, I mean, Kareem Hunt already has a new home. He went to Cleveland.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it before. I
don't like
I don't really know why he's in Cleveland.
They already have Nick Chubb, that's their power guy.
And Duke Johnson.
Duke Johnson receiving back. I don't really know why they wanted Kareem Hunt. Maybe just for, like, to have him. Like, I don't know, like, he's
Just
still young. He's 23.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what they're going to do about the future. But I guess they want to hold him for years to come because they know he's a rare talent. And he obviously showed that when his first season in Kansas City. And obviously he led the league. And so I just feel like the team thinks he has huge potential, and he does. And I think that's the reason why they made that trade. Or, well, that's why they picked him up from free agency.
Yeah, they probably just figured anytime you can add a player, that dynamic to help your team.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also I think I saw today that Adam Schefter said that he could be suspended for 6 to 10 games. So,
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, obviously they're not going to have him at first, but honestly, like,
I mean, it was really soon. A month after the video came out of him beating the girl, I mean, he's already signed. I mean,
also, like, the Browns are a big pick. I could see them maybe making the wild card next year. So.
Yeah. And then some other saga going on. Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell. I mean, their big three is quickly diminished.
Yeah.
Because Le'Veon Bell tweeted the other day, I'm free, I'm free, I'm free.
Yeah.
With free agency coming up. And then Antonio Brown met with Art Rooney, and they decided it's best to move on.
That picture, you saw that picture. Oh, my God.
So, I mean, I don't know. Where do you think Antonio Brown will end up?
Probably San Francisco.
Yeah.
Or maybe, I don't know, somewhere like Tennessee. I don't know. Somewhere random. That's the thing.
I hope it's not the Patriots. I can see
of
the
course
Patriots
not.
picking him up and,
that's what the Patriots
him
always
to the best
do.
of their ability.
It's like, if they've been good in the past, it's like, oh, bring him to New England.
I don't know why Antonio is being so weird now. Like, I think it's a power struggle. I think he realizes that he obviously realizes he's one of the best, if not the best in the game. And I think he wants more power, and he's feeling like he's getting, like, controlled by
the one thing
Ben Roethlisberger.
The one thing I hated about that Week 17 game that he didn't play in because of, like, off-the-field stuff and all that, it's just...
Yeah, the Steelers never even made the playoffs.
Your team's fighting for a wild card spot, and you're sitting on the sideline in a mink coat, and you leave halfway through the game. That just shows you have no devotion to the team.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm glad that he's gone because the Steelers organization, they have a new talent, James Conner and Juju Smith-Schuster.
So the new big three.
Yeah, they don't need. I feel like they don't need him if he's just gonna be this childish.
And once again, for you Bills fans, the Bills signed Spencer Long, the offensive lineman from the Jets, to a 3-year contract. They also re-signed Jeremiah Searles, offensive lineman, and they released Charles Clay, and he's already been picked up by the Cardinals. And I think that will have to do it for this week of NFL Talk. Next week, we'll definitely start talking about the free agency and the mock draft coming up as we're quickly approaching that. Free agency begins, I believe, March 14th or 15th. The draft is in the end of April. And real quick, the top 10 goes Cardinals, 49ers, Jets, Raiders, Buccaneers, Giants, Jaguars, Lions, Bills, number 9, and Broncos at 10. So it's going to get very, very interesting here, as it always does. But thank you for tuning in for our first show, and thank you, Aaron, for coming on, and we'll see everyone next week.